I'm not that interested in Oscars. People ask, well, where do you keep it? I said, next to the other one.
Denzel Washington, twice an Oscar winner with more than 40 years at the top of Hollywood, has always been known as a composed gentleman. Under that image, however, are moments when he exploded with intensity times so tense they stunned both colleagues and the media. People have called it the 7 names he hated most, an unofficial list, yet filled with truth, including directors, co-stars, and even figures outside the industry who once pushed Denzel to lose his calm. These stories not only expose another side of the legend, but also reveal the life philosophy he has pursued. So who are the 7 people that left the deepest scars in Denzel Washington's life? Stay until the end of the video to find out. Quentin Tarantino, the clash over the Crimson Tide script. In 1995, when Crimson Tide was released, global audiences were captivated by the tense confrontation between 2 naval officers, Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington, set against the backdrop of a strained Cold War. The film grossed more than $157 million USD worldwide, becoming one of director Tony Scott's biggest successes. But behind the box office glory was a fierce behind-the-scenes story tied to a name no one expected: Quentin Tarantino. At that time, Tarantino had just achieved resounding success with Pulp Fiction 1994, winning the Palme d'Or at Cannes and an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Hollywood hailed him as the rebellious genius of a new generation. Because of this, Disney, the distributor of Crimson Tide, invited Tarantino to polish the dialogue so the film would carry a more contemporary feel. The debates about Silver Surfer and comic books came directly from Tarantino's pen. For many viewers, these details were entertaining, but for Denzel, the issue went far beyond flashy lines. In one of the final scenes, there was dialogue about Lipizzaner stallions. At first, it was just a scientific historical debate, but according to some witnesses, Tarantino's wording gave the lines a discriminatory undertone touching on sensitive racial issues. Denzel, who had long stood firmly for fairness, did not hesitate to voice his discomfort. Some recalled that right on set, he confronted Tarantino. "Why did you put those words in? Do you understand what they mean?" The confrontation did not last long, but it was enough to leave a deep rift. Tarantino, accustomed to adoration, felt insulted by an actor calling him out. Meanwhile, Denzel, already a 2-time Oscar winner by then, Glory in 1989, Malcolm X in 1992, believed he had a responsibility to protect respect in every line of dialogue. To him, a misplaced word could become a blade that wounded black audiences, the community he represented. After that, the two hardly spoke again. Denzel once stated in an interview that he would not appear in any Tarantino films, a polite yet firm refusal. For years, audiences never saw Denzel's name attached to any project by the director famous for his violent and extreme language. The story raised a question: does a star have the right to resist a screenwriter? Or must cinema accept sharp edges in the name of artistic truth? But time eventually softened the rough edges. Around 2005, Denzel recalled bumping into Tarantino at an event. He walked over, extended his hand, and said, "I'm sorry. Let's put the past to rest." Tarantino smiled in return. The two buried the hatchet. Denzel later explained that he did not want to carry grudges. He had learned from his father, a pastor, that forgiveness is the only way to live at peace. The story became a fascinating example. Tarantino continued building a career of violent satirical films, Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, while Denzel remained the disciplined, ethical, principled actor he had always been. They each followed different paths, but their clash revealed much Denzel was not afraid to confront, ready to defend his beliefs, yet mature enough to let go of resentment. On a broader level, this was not merely a clash between two artistic personalities. It reflected a long-standing tension in Hollywood, the collision between absolute creative freedom and the social responsibility of art. Tarantino believed every word had the right to exist if it served the work. But Denzel asked, if a line makes an audience feel belittled, is it still art? At age 70, looking back, people can see this as one of Denzel Washington's most defining battles. He neither won nor lost, but he preserved what mattered: integrity. And that is why audiences still respect him, whether or not they agree with his reaction. More striking, however, was how Denzel chose to resolve it. Had he remained hardline, the relationship might have stayed frozen forever. Instead, he chose forgiveness, something many consider harder than winning an argument. Perhaps that decision is what made him Hollywood's calm gentleman, someone who can face the past with humanity. So did this confrontation with Tarantino leave traces in Denzel's later collaborations. Some directors admitted they felt a bit nervous working with him, knowing he would not hesitate to speak up if something in the script felt wrong. On the other hand, this was precisely why many filmmakers trusted him not only a great actor, but one willing to defend artistic and moral values. The Tarantino story ended with a handshake, but it opened the door to a whole chain of complex relationships in Denzel's life. Because he did not only clash with famous directors, even his co-stars, those beside him on set, sometimes felt disliked. And one of them was Liev Schreiber, his co-star in The Hurricane. But did Denzel truly hate Liev, or was it just a deadly misunderstanding within the craft of acting? Liev Schreiber, the misunderstanding on the set of The Hurricane. In 1999, The Hurricane premiered and quickly became a milestone in Denzel's career. In the film, he portrayed Reuben "Hurricane" Carter, a middleweight boxer wrongfully convicted of murder who spent nearly 20 years in prison before being exonerated. The role earned Denzel an Academy Award nomination and a string of prestigious accolades, cementing his place as an A-list star. Yet few knew that on set, the atmosphere was so tense that one co-star admitted, "I thought he hated me." That co-star was Liev Schreiber. At the time of The Hurricane, Liev was in his early 30s, not yet bathed in fame but already noted for his profound acting style. He played Sam Chaitin, the Canadian activist who helped free Carter. On screen, Chaitin was a loyal ally, the bridge that carried Carter from the darkness of prison into the light of justice. But off-screen, a troubling distance emerged between Liev and Denzel, Liev recalled in an interview. "When we were filming, I always felt like he didn't like me. He was quiet, stern, and seemed to keep his distance all the time." Denzel's strictness and deep immersion into his role, spending months researching training physically and living like a prisoner to embody Carter, led Liev to misunderstand. He thought Denzel wanted no contact and even harbored hostility toward him. But the truth was entirely different. For this project, Denzel adopted a method acting approach, choosing to remain cold and isolated, exactly like Reuben Carter, who had been locked away for decades. He did not smile much, nor engage in small talk. It was not personal disdain, merely his way of staying in character. Yet for a younger actor inexperienced in working with giants like Denzel, that silence became a heavy psychological burden. Even after filming ended, Liev carried that feeling for years. Only when he joined another project, The Manchurian Candidate 2004, did he discover something unexpected. It was Denzel himself who had recommended him for the role. That moment left Liev stunned. The very man he thought hated him had actually been the one quietly opening doors of opportunity. In an interview, Liev admitted, "I was truly shocked. I had completely misunderstood him. It was a big lesson for me." This story reveals two things about Denzel Washington. First, he is an actor of extreme seriousness, willing to sacrifice personal comfort to fully inhabit a role. Second, he never carries personal grudges into his work. On the contrary, he respects the talent of his colleagues, even supporting them quietly. His silence may have led to misunderstanding, but in the end, his actions spoke louder than words. Placed in a broader context, this case reflects a fascinating side of acting. Sometimes a star's deep immersion can create distance. Audiences only see the brilliance on screen, but behind it are hours of focus and withdrawal so intense that colleagues may feel shut out. The question then arises, does an actor have the right to sacrifice social interaction to preserve a role, or must he balance it to avoid harming his co-star's spirits? For Liev Schreiber, the experience became a profound lesson. He not only learned to distinguish between the real person and the character, but also realized that silence does not always mean hostility. For Denzel, the incident once again proved he was not one to hate easily. He was strict, distant, but never malicious. If the story with Quentin Tarantino was proof of an artistic clash, then with Liev Schreiber, it was a vivid example of misunderstanding in the craft of acting. On one side, a rebellious screenwriter openly confronted. On the other, a young co-star who thought he was hated but was actually quietly supported. Two different slices, both painting a portrait of Denzel Washington, principled, disciplined, but never petty. And this was only the beginning of the list of 7 people Denzel was said to have hated most. Sometimes conflict did not remain as silent misunderstandings, but could erupt into moments on the verge of physical fights right on set. One of the most dramatic of these involved Josh Brolin, his co-star in American Gangster. But what exactly pushed the two stars to nearly clash in front of the camera? Josh Brolin, the near clash on the set of American Gangster. In 2006, director Ridley Scott began work on American Gangster, a film recreating the true story of Frank Lucas, the notorious Harlem drug lord of the 1970s. The movie assembled an A-list cast: Denzel Washington as Frank Lucas and Russell Crowe as prosecutor Richie Roberts. Josh Brolin, who already had nearly 20 years of acting experience but only began rising to prominence with No Country for Old Men. 2007 played the corrupt cop Trupo, a greedy, ruthless character who directly confronted Denzel on screen. The atmosphere on set was tense from the start. American Gangster was a heavyweight project with a budget exceeding $100 million USD and daily box office pressure looming over every shoot. Ridley Scott was known for his strictness, while Denzel embodied Frank Lucas with chilling coldness. In such an environment, even a small incident could ignite sparks. And one day that spark flared. According to Josh Brolin, during a scene he suddenly forgot his lines. In his confusion, he instinctively placed his hand on Denzel's shoulder, a gesture to signal for a pause or a cue. But to Denzel, it was a breach of boundaries. He swiftly knocked Brolin's hand away, his eyes flashing with anger, and uttered a line, "Witnesses still remember, don't ever put your hand on me like that." The air froze. The crew fell silent. Brolin, hot-tempered himself, stood frozen for a moment before stepping forward, ready to respond. Some said that if only one more second had passed, the two stars might have lunged at each other in front of the stunned crew. But almost miraculously, they both pulled back. Denzel turned away, Brolin clenched his fist, and the scene was halted. The incident didn't last long, but it left an uneasy aftertaste. In an interview years later, Brolin recalled, "I thought he was going to punch me, and I wasn't planning to back down either. But then we both held it in. Maybe that restraint saved us from a stain." Behind the story, it's clear this was not simply a personal clash. For Denzel, physical boundaries were sacred, especially when he was fully immersed in a powerful figure like Frank Lucas. A single touch, even accidental, could shatter his immersion and the dignity of the character. For Brolin, it was just a reflex during work, but for Denzel, it was an intrusion. Two perspectives colliding into tension that seemed irreparable. Yet, as with many conflicts in his career, time became the soothing balm. A year later at a film event, Brolin ran into Denzel again. He approached, half hesitant, half direct. Denzel looked at him, laughed, and said, "Keep making movies, my friend." Just a few words, but enough to bury the past. Brolin shared, "Since then, we've been fine. I know he doesn't hold grudges. It was just a moment of explosion, then it passed." The story with Josh Brolin reveals another side of Denzel Washington. He can be fiery, explosive, ready to defend his personal space with visible anger. But as always, he never lets that outburst turn into lasting resentment. In the end, what remained was not the memory of an almost thrown punch, but mutual respect between two colleagues. And from this, we see a clearer portrait of Denzel, a man who always holds to his principles, sometimes so strict that others feel uncomfortable, yet also one who knows how to make peace. Perhaps it is precisely this contradiction that makes him a symbol at once approachable and mysterious, fierce and deeply human. Sean Diddy Combs, The Clash at the Party. If the confrontation with Tarantino was about dialogue, the silence with Liev Schreiber was a misunderstanding, and the incident with Josh Brolin was an on-set explosion, then the story with Sean Diddy Combs took place in a different setting, a lavish, noisy party filled with flashing lights. And this time, it wasn't just the crew who witnessed it, but a crowd of America's most famous figures. In 2003, Denzel Washington and his wife Pauletta Pearson, his life partner since 1983, attended a grand party hosted by Sean Diddy Combs. At that time, Diddy was at the peak of his music and business career, known as the party king of hip-hop. His parties were legendary, champagne flowing like rivers, pounding music, and star-studded guest lists. For many artists, they were the ultimate stage to flaunt power and expand networks. But for Denzel, private, serious, and rarely seen in noisy places, the event was perhaps a challenge from the start. According to some U.S. entertainment outlets, the atmosphere turned sour when Diddy acted disrespectfully toward guests, including Denzel and his wife. No one knew exactly what sparked it, but witnesses recalled that Denzel suddenly lost his temper, walked straight up to Diddy and shouted, "You don't respect anyone." In a room filled with music and laughter, Denzel's voice cut through like a blade. For a moment, everyone froze. Diddy, usually the master of the crowd, likely never expected to be publicly called out by a Hollywood A-lister in front of everyone. The tension was so high that many thought the two men would erupt into a fiery showdown. But that didn't happen. Denzel needed no more words. He took his wife's hand, turned his back, and left the party, leaving everyone stunned. That was his choice. No prolonging, no further argument, just withdrawal to preserve dignity. The move sparked days of speculation. Why had Denzel been angry enough to walk out? Did he and Diddy already have bad blood, or was it simply a reaction to a careless act? Interestingly, the incident did not permanently fracture their relationship. They were still seen together at later events, posing for photos and shaking hands. Perhaps for Diddy, the outburst was just a shocking moment. For Denzel, it was a reminder that even in the glittering world of entertainment, respect mattered most. From another perspective, many commentators saw Denzel's reaction as a reflection of his core character, principled, protective of his family, unwilling to tolerate disrespect. Denzel had long been admired as a model husband and father. He and Pauletta had been together for more than 4 decades, raising 4 children. To him, defending his wife in the face of disrespect was not just instinct, it was duty. Still, some argued that perhaps Denzel overreacted. Diddy's parties were famously wild, carefree, where jokes and playful remarks often carried no deeper intent. Could Denzel's seriousness have made him too sensitive, too quick to anger? The question remains unanswered since neither side ever gave details about the incident. But one thing is certain, the event revealed another side of Denzel. He was not always calm. When he felt his boundaries crossed, he could respond fiercely, even publicly, no matter who was watching. And then, as usual, he chose to walk away rather than fuel an endless war of words. So after Tarantino, Schreiber, Brolin, and Diddy, what do we see? That Denzel Washington is neither easygoing nor someone who seeks conflict. On the contrary, he values boundaries and respect so highly that any violation can ignite sparks. And in an entertainment world full of traps, those principles have helped him hold on to his identity. But not every conflict was real. Sometimes it was social media and rumors that spun imaginary dramas of clashes that never truly happened. One name often tied to Denzel's supposed hate list was Tyler Perry. What's the truth? Did Denzel actually hate Perry? Or was it just a creation of collective imagination? Tyler Perry, the rumors of not getting along. Tyler Perry, the director, producer, and actor famous for his Medea comedy series, is a cultural phenomenon in America. He became one of Hollywood's wealthiest and most powerful figures, with an estimated net worth of over $1 billion USD thanks to his film and theater empire. Perry has been praised for creating opportunities for Black actors and audiences, but at the same time he has been a thorn in the side of many critics. Some argue that his films are too simplistic, relying heavily on stereotypes, and lack the nuance needed to reflect the depth of the community. In this context, several YouTube channels and entertainment blogs have pushed out clickbait titles such as Denzel Washington refuses to work with Tyler Perry, or Denzel hates Perry for his cheap style. These videos often feature artificial voices, spliced images, and dramatized narratives. Denzel, Hollywood's A-list star symbol of seriousness and discipline, despises Perry, known for mass-market comedies. It sounds plausible, but in reality, there is no evidence. In fact, Denzel Washington has never publicly criticized Tyler Perry in any interview. He has also never outright rejected a project related to Perry, at least according to reputable outlets like Variety, Hollywood Reporter, or The New York Times. All the public has is silence, and it is precisely that silence which became fertile ground for rumors to grow. Some commentators believe these rumors stem from the stark contrast in styles. Denzel represents serious artistic drama, from Malcolm X to Fences. He consistently chooses weighty, profound roles often tied to history and the Black experience in America. Perry, on the other hand, is known for lighthearted comedies sometimes exaggerated aimed at mainstream entertainment. It's easy to imagine that a principled artist like Denzel would never collaborate with Perry, and thus the rumor found room to flourish. But let's reverse the question. Does Denzel's silence equal disdain, or does it simply mean he hasn't had the chance to collaborate? In reality, Hollywood is filled with artists who have never worked together, and that doesn't mean they don't like each other. Notably in 2020, when Tyler Perry received the Honorary Governor's Award at the Emmys for his contributions to the community, Denzel publicly sent his congratulations through a media representative. It was a small detail, but it showed he bore no animosity. If he truly hated Perry, he could have stayed silent. Instead, he chose to send a positive signal. So who benefited from these rumors? Clearly social media channels that thrive on sensational content for clicks. Foreign press once warned that Denzel Washington is among the names most frequently dragged into AI-generated fake news videos, designed to lure curious viewers. Titles like 7 Artists Denzel Hates Most are nothing more than tricks for views with no informational value. Yet the very existence of such rumors reflects something. Denzel Washington's image has become so synonymous with standards that simply placing him opposite a contrasting style like Perry's instantly makes for an attractive story. Audiences are drawn not only to Perry but also to the curiosity about the dark side of Denzel's character. The question remains, has Denzel Washington ever been irritated by such rumors? We don't know for sure, but judging from his silence and lack of harsh reactions, it seems he chooses the attitude of letting time answer. For him, career awards and personal image matter more than sparring in the media. If the clash with Diddy showed that Denzel could erupt instantly to defend respect, then the Tyler Perry story proved the opposite. He knows when to remain silent, so rumors don't turn into reality. A balance few can manage, and it is thanks to that balance that he continues to stand firm amid the noise. But silence is not always enough. Sometimes, even at a prestigious international event like Cannes, he has no choice but to speak up, pointing directly at someone who crossed his boundaries. What exactly happened at Cannes 2025 that made Denzel, at the age of 70, shout "Stop" right there on the red carpet? Cannes 2025. Incident: confrontation with a photographer. In a career spanning more than half a century, Denzel Washington has rarely drawn attention for explosive actions in public. He has long been known for his calm demeanor, measured words, and the refined poise of a Hollywood gentleman. Yet at age 70, during his return to the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival, one of the world's most prestigious film events, Denzel had a moment that set the media buzzing. He pointed directly at a photographer and shouted, "Stop!" It was May 2025 when Cannes glittered with thousands of cameras and the footsteps of the world's biggest names. Denzel appeared with the team of Highest to Lowest, directed by Spike Lee, a project in which he played the lead. This marked his first return to Cannes in over 3 decades, since Much Ado About Nothing, 1993. Even more special, he was honored with an honorary Palme d'Or, a lifetime achievement recognizing the indelible mark of his career. On the red carpet, Denzel walked amid cheers and flashing lights. He wore a classic black tuxedo, his gaze solemn yet warm, an image reminiscent of the timeless characters he has embodied. But the solemn atmosphere was shattered when a photographer pushed too close, thrusting a lens directly into his face, crossing the boundary of personal space. According to Variety, Denzel immediately stopped, his eyes sharp as steel. He pointed straight at the photographer and shouted, "Stop!" In that instant, the entire space seemed frozen. Colleagues were stunned, the crowd's cheers fell silent. The man long seen as the symbol of composure revealed another side, firm, uncompromising when his boundaries were crossed. But only seconds later, he lowered his hand, took a deep breath, and continued walking. Denzel did not prolong the tension. He knew Cannes was not the place to erupt into a dispute. The event carried on with applause, and that evening, he received the honorary Palme d'Or from Spike Lee, his friend and longtime collaborator. The incident spread quickly across headlines. Some outlets screamed, "Denzel Washington loses his temper at Cannes." Others defended him. "Hollywood icon protects his personal space." Images of him pointing at the lens circulated widely on social media, fueling debate. Had Denzel overreacted, or was he simply defending his right to privacy? In today's context, the question matters even more. In an age of smartphones, digital cameras, and social media, the line between public and private grows ever thinner. Stars like Denzel are not only pursued on screen, but surrounded in every step of their real lives. Does a person, even a movie star, have the right to demand respect for personal space? Or must they accept it as the price of fame? It's worth recalling, this was not the first time Denzel had shown frustration with the media. He has often corrected reporters for inaccuracies and reacted strongly when he or his family were dragged into side stories. But Cannes 2025 was different. It was an international stage with thousands of cameras focused on him. That he contained his anger and carried on with grace at the ceremony once again proved his composure. From another angle, the incident revealed a truth. Even as a veteran star at 70, Denzel Washington still had the fire to defend himself. No one wants their image reduced to a commodity in front of a lens. And at Cannes, he delivered a blunt lesson. Respect is not a privilege but a basic right, even for a legend. Most important, though, was how the story ended. That very evening, when Spike Lee, his longtime friend and director of Malcolm X 1992, embraced him on stage while presenting the honorary Palme d'Or, The audience erupted in applause. The photographer was forgotten. What remained was the image of Denzel Washington being honored with shining eyes. The angry moment on the red carpet became just a footnote in a glorious celebration. The question lingers, was it turning 70 that made Denzel more resolute about guarding his boundaries? Or was it an instinct always within him, waiting for the right moment to surface? The answer likely lies somewhere in between. Either way, the Cannes 2025 incident added another layer to the portrait of those who once made Denzel Washington angry. But not all the names on that list came from the world of cinema. In fact, within the realm of sports, where Denzel is a passionate fan, he once openly criticized a powerful figure. That was Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And there, Denzel uttered a phrase that resonated loudly. "All money ain't good money, Jerry." Jerry Jones, money isn't always good money. Denzel has long been a loyal Cowboys fan. He has often worn the team's iconic blue star cap and never hid his pride when talking about his love for the team. But that love has also come with constant frustration, because since their last Super Bowl victory in 1996, the Cowboys have never returned to glory. For nearly 3 decades, millions of fans, Denzel included, have watched the team spend heavily make headlines yet deliver mediocre results. In August 2025, while appearing on ESPN's First Take to promote his new film, Denzel suddenly shifted the conversation to football. Unable to contain his frustration, he openly criticized Jerry Jones, the billionaire who has owned the Cowboys for more than 30 years. He doesn't think about us, the fans. He only thinks about his own pocket. All money ain't always good money, Jerry. The remark instantly caused a stir. Few Hollywood stars have ever dared to publicly criticize one of the most powerful owners in the NFL. And even rarer was that the criticism came from a longtime fan, someone who had once praised the Cowboys wholeheartedly. Jerry Jones's response? Silence. But social media was anything but quiet. Cowboys fans flooded the internet with clips of Denzel's statement, calling it a voice speaking for us. On Twitter, one user wrote, "Finally, someone said out loud what we've been thinking for 20 years. From another angle, the story was about more than football. It reflected how Denzel Washington, even as a movie superstar, still carried himself like an ordinary citizen, a true diehard fan, willing to speak up, willing to show disappointment. In an era when many celebrities avoid controversy, Denzel's decision to call out Jerry Jones proved he values results and integrity over money. And that phrase, 'all money ain't good money,' was not only a reminder to Jerry Jones, but also an echo of a life philosophy Denzel has often demonstrated: money cannot replace integrity, trust, or the loyalty of fans. After all, from Tarantino, Schreiber, Brolin, Diddy Perry, the Cannes photographer to Jerry Jones, we see a multifaceted portrait of Denzel Washington at 70, strict, quick to erupt, yet forgiving and deeply humane. And perhaps those people he was said to hate were in fact only mirrors reflecting the way he has lived, fought and grown through both glory and storm. If you find Denzel Washington's behind-the-scenes stories fascinating, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Stay with us to uncover even more exciting secrets of Hollywood.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast.
There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos, now appearing on your screen.